Hey everyone, Bradley tuning in. Now the numbers are out for July and I wanted to go live and share these with you. A lot of my videos are very topical, but this one I think is a little more practical because we're dealing with information we have on the past, but I also want to give you some tidbits on where I think we're going in August to the end of this year. If you're on the buying side, if you're on the selling side, just what does this market look like? Getting our bearings here. Obviously we've had some major changes. We saw that 15% foreign buyers tax take place. We've had interest rates increasing, and in order to qualify for a mortgage has gotten that much harder in the last few months. So all of these are just kind of beating down on the market. But I think everything can be summarized into one word, which is psychological. And I think that July is the very first month we have proof of that. If you're getting any value of this, please like and share. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. I really want to get into the nitty-gritties on what do we see from July, but also where are we going? So here we go. Couple numbers that I think prove the psychology is what's driving the market is, first off, that sales are down by 40%, which is quite substantial. And I think that's a number we throw around a lot because it's pretty big, right? But I also want to talk about new listings. I want you guys to remember that in April, new listings were up by 33% year over year. So when we look at the numbers from July, they're up by 5%. So really, we do see that new listings, listing starts, have actually slowed down since the spring. A lot of these are seasonal as well, but it also, to me, I'll let you draw your own conclusion, but to me, it speaks to the psychological side, because if we've got a decrease in the number of sales by 40%, but new listings of 5%, let me ask you, do you think it's new listings coming on the market that's driving the price? Or do you think it's people refusing to purchase that's driving the price? And I think that's exactly what it is. I think the result is coming from these buyers that are standing on the sidelines. And we've been saying this for months, the industry has been talking about it, but there really hasn't been the evidence. And now that we're seeing a slowdown in new listings, but still that really, really low amount of transactions taking place, I think is the first month that actually proves that. So I want to jump into where I think we're going to be going in August. I think it's important to note, and I've talked about this here and there, I want to have videos that go a little bit further in the future, but there's definitely two micro markets that we're looking at here. Everything we do here is very macro, and a lot of times people will watch these videos and say, you know what, Brad, you're not really hitting it on the head because I'm not seeing everything you're saying, a little bit, but not so much. The numbers don't line up with my neighborhood. But I think it's because we can really separate it into two. And a lot of this follows Vancouver. I love to follow Vancouver market because we're just behind them. And in a lot of ways, we're copying them. There's two sides to this. The first side is that high-end luxury regions, these very high-end homes. These are the homes that have really taken a slump over the last few months. They were the high-ticket, multi-million-dollar homes that have dropped the most in price. Because they're highest in value, their drops have a very significant impact in that decline that we've seen. A lot of it's coming from that. And here's the other side of it. Those affordable homes, we're talking about condos, apartments, they've actually performed very well. And this is why I think there's a little bit of an inconsistency, because if you look at condos over the last year, they're actually up on average 23%. If you were to go back 6 months when everything was just rising and rising, and you were to look at the condos were actually doing worse than they are now. They've actually increased since all of these changes have come into play. Why is that? That's precisely why I want to have another video, because it's very fascinating. But it's worth noting that there's two sides to this. We've got these guys that are slowing down, but then right down Toronto, we got these condos that are just exploding in value, and it skews the numbers to some extent. So looking into August, taking all of this in mind, what I expect, I mean, we're already a third into the month, and from where I'm standing on the ground perspective, I'm seeing activity is increasing, but it's also worth mentioning that seasonally in August, September, activity and sales do go up. So this kind of lull we've seen in June and July is also seasonal to some extent. So coming into the fall, I do anticipate there's going to be an increase in activity just as a year, like a normal calendar cycle that we see, regardless of this cool down that's kind of taken place. The other thing that I'm expecting is months of inventory. I've done videos on this in the past talking about it. An average you're looking for is about 5 to 6 months, which speaks to a balanced market. If you look at where we stand today, it is going up. As I had said last month, we're at 3.1, so we're on the way. But because of the way the calculation is done, it is delayed. So because of that, my expectation is I tend to, and I've shown other ways how I've done this, I tend to think we're sitting in a buyer's market. So naturally, that months of inventory will go up in August again. I know a lot of people look at this market and they think, oh my goodness, this sucks, right? Especially a lot of my younger clients, they're like, this really isn't good. I missed out on all these growth. Let me just remind you guys and give you some confidence that what we're looking at today is more normal. If you were to look back at what was happening 6 months ago, that's not normal. A 30% increase year over year is ridiculous. So to some extent, as much as there's a bit of a fear and an uncertainty, we do have an increase year over year of 5% price from a yearly standpoint. That's still pretty good. Yes, last month we're down from 6% from June to July, but if you look at it year over year from July, a 5% increase, that's more modest. That's more realistic. So we're really entering this time in the market. Yes, it's cooler, but we're comparing it to something that was not a normal market. So I want to give you guys that confidence that we're starting to see what we saw 5-6 years ago, where things were a little bit more stable. And so speaking specifically to buyers, knowing that this months of inventory is going to go up, I just want you guys to know that right now there are some pretty damn good deals out on the market. A lot of people have purchased a home and are kind of they've put themselves in a scenario where they're desperate to sell. So we still are seeing these opportunities to get in the market at a very good price. But also be reminded that in the coming months, in October, it does seem that interest rates will go up, if not in October, in the new year. Why am I so confident of this? I like to kind of follow this on the side as well. I'm not an expert in all of this, but it definitely applies. We are seeing a very strong Canadian economy. We're seeing oil prices going up, and the loonie for a time was actually the strongest performing currency in the world. This was in the last few months. So we've got this very solid economy. So I can't see a reason, even when at a time things were a little more difficult, I still found that the interest rates were being increased. So I would expect that they're going to continue because they seem to be doing it. For those of you who are thinking about selling, I want you guys to know the market is still pretty strong. Prices are good relative to last year. Yes, you're not getting these outrageous prices you got in the spring, but 3.1 months of inventory is still pretty solid when you're looking to sell. That means, that translates to, for every home that's listed, 33% of them are going to sell this month. So what that says is when you do go to list, make sure you're marketing your property properly. Make sure you've got the right price, the right condition, and that it's advertised correctly, because you want to make sure you're in that group if you are looking to sell. Very much what we expect in a normal market. Again, we're not looking to sell this in a month. We're looking to properly sell the home. I hope this gives you guys some clarity. I know, again, everything is very macro in perspective, and this is why I like to jump a little bit into topics and specific niches. But I want to give you guys an overall perspective of what I'm seeing going on in the field, what I'm expecting. If you guys have questions about your specific area, feel free to message me directly. I'd love to help you. It's all based on certain pockets in the city and across the GTA. From that, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you guys leave your likes and comments. If you're following on YouTube, please subscribe and turn those notifications on Facebook Live so you see it pop up right away. I'm going to keep doing these Wednesdays at noon, and I'll check in with you next week. Keep it real.